Hello, everyone. Good evening. Faye, you're here right on the dot this time. Awesome. Hello, Doug. Hello, Doug. Hello, MTM. Faye Knox, the Saxon, and Joad. You're here as well. Hey, Joad. Hope you're doing well, guys. Yeah, today we're going to check out the stages of genocide and what it's. I'm going to let people draw their own conclusions because I think it's pretty clear, but there's been a lot of issues happening recently. And some of the speeches that Trudeau's been giving on his campaign trail are extremely alarming. And you'll see why tonight. And I promise tonight I'm not going to show you any Justin Trudeau videos because I made everyone puke last week. So you don't need your puke buckets this week. I don't even want to see Trudeau's face. I've listened to enough videos of him this week. So there's going to be no Trudeau today. I'm going to talk about him, but there's going to be no Trudeau video, so you don't have to listen. Okay. Hey, Tyler. Hey, Cross and Jordan. Point Fire. Okay. Oh, yeah, I meant to say special hello to people last week. I don't even have my book here. Oh, there was 2 people that joined last week, and they were super awesome. They were new to the channel. I haven't seen them comment or anything before, but anyways, hopefully I see them again this week, and I'm going to say hello. You Zoolander. Can you get banned now if you start talking about Trudeau? Can you? You probably can, eh? Is that what you're saying? Why you're saying that? Or is it because he's just reminds you of Zoolander? That's probably it, eh? But yeah. Hey, Patrick. So, okay, yeah, Faye, I know I'm with you. Can't stand the dude's face. His voice is even worse. It's the double whammy. But I did want to go through. So I've done a few things, like, you know how I used to Google like unvax just to see what kind of insane propaganda was coming up around that. Well, I kind of got bored of that one because they're just doing the same thing over and over. So I found a new entertainment, and I'm going to show it to you. And this is probably going to make you guys in the comments really happy because it's actually from Trudeau's Facebook page. So I follow him on Facebook. I know a lot of you don't have Facebook anymore, but it's in the comments on his videos, and the stuff he's posting are amazing. I don't know if it's because Facebook does not have the ability to go in and delete all the negatives like they normally do, or I don't know if it's due to the fact that, if you have 5.7 comments, 5,000 comments, for example, like I have in a video that I'm seeing here, and 4,500 of them are negative. If they were to remove all 4,500 of them, it would be like, oh, there's supposed to be 5,000 comments, but there's only like 100 or whatever, 500 showing on the page. So I think people would catch on. So it's almost like they're leaving the negative comments up there as in, we hope people are not going to go and read all the comments, but I have, because I find it very interesting what people are saying about Trudeau. So while we are waiting for a few more people to join, I'm going to show you Trudeau's Facebook page. So get ready, Faye. Here it is. This picture is my favorite. It's just, oh God. Anyways, I saw that Binks is here. Hey, Binks. Awesome job last week in the chat. Yeah, I like your comments, so keep them coming. Tamajit, you're here too. Really happy you're here. I just want to see what Tamajit is saying. Hold on, guys. I'm going to put it up on the screen for you. Oh, you can't see it there. Tennessee has announced forced isolation camps for critiques of Fauci. Yeah, we have isolation camps, COVID camps announced in Ontario this week. So we do have them coming here. And of course, they're saying this, oh, it's just like an available camp for people who can't isolate by themselves. But anybody dumb enough to believe that narrative, I don't even know. There's no rescuing you. If you don't realize at this point what is going on, I just don't know what I can even say. So yeah, a lot of scary stuff going on. Rock the vote 2021. We can try a vote. We're going to try to rock it. I said last week in this video that I was going to be voting PPC, even though I don't believe they're actually going to win. And a couple of people were actually upset by that because they're like, well, you're splitting the vote. So the typical split the vote thing. But the thing, first of all, my stance has always been the same since the last election. You can't split the vote because the liberals and the conservatives are the same. So just by voting PPC, you're not splitting the vote between them. It's the same party. It doesn't matter. They're going to do the same thing whether you have a conservative or a liberal in power. So we're not splitting the vote. That's my belief. And on top of it, I think when you vote, I like to vote for the party that aligns more with my views of the world, and my views of the world are incredibly freedom driven. I want freedom for everybody. I want the government to be as small as possible, to leave me alone. That's what I want. So when I look at our political landscape today, look at me with the fancy words, but our political landscape is really just, you have the people who are now trying to take your freedoms away, and that's every other party. And then you have this small little tiny hero party trying to come out and give you the freedoms that we used to have and have form a small government, and that's the PPC. So it is the only way to vote morally at this point, in my opinion. And that's why I vote for them, even though I think I know they're not going to win. There's not enough people awake anymore. So anyways, okay. Okay. I saw a couple more people joined in. So Bob, Caper999, Doug, I think I saw you already, but hello again. I thought I saw Scribbler in there. Oh, there you are, Scribbler. Hi, Scribbler. The original Max G-Force, love your name. Hello to you. I don't know if I've seen you here before, but welcome if this is your first time on the stream. Hope I don't disappoint. All right. Okay. So let's check this out. So Trudeau's page here, very, very fun to check out the comments. So we'll just pick his video today. So this is this the latest one? Let me just check, guys. Oh no, it's up here. Okay. So first of all, his posts are always the same narrative. Vaccine, 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 get the vaccine. It's time you get the vaccine. It's like the same thing over and over. So and you'll have the other keywords of fight against COVID, but vaccine, you know, so it's always in there. So anyways, let's check out some of the comments that we have in here. So view more comments. I'm going to open all of them up and we're going to check just a couple of them that will make you laugh. So here's one. Too bad there are so many educated people in the medical science and field that disagree with you, Justin. Oh, right. They don't get heard. So his own videos, this is Justin Trudeau's page, or Zoolander's page. His own videos are getting like these comments that disagree with him completely, like massively. It's overwhelming. And then once in a while, you'll find a comment of somebody who likes him. And that person is often not even a Canadian resident. So, or they don't live in Canada. They're like, yeah, India, I find a lot. So anyways, really funny. I'll show you. Let me see. Pretty crazy what's going on in our country now, having a leader dividing everyone and belittling a lot of Canadians. Trudeau should be apologizing, but looks like he really doesn't care at this point. So you see, this is the kind of comments he gets. And look at all the upvotes on here. 95 total. We have 2 hearts. Like, it's really like people are completely against Trudeau. This is why he gets booed everywhere he goes. Everywhere. People are done with Trudeau. They really are. So see this one. This is a bit of an anomaly. Can't imagine any other leader could have gotten us through this pandemic and we're still united as a country. Bravo. So this is a little bit weird. I sometimes I'll check who these people are who are saying this. It's because sometimes I think they're made up accounts. Not all the time. I'm not saying all the time, but I think they're made up accounts. See, this one seems to be very, very pro-Trudeau. So it's just very interesting. If you have a couple of minutes to entertain yourselves, or I'll just do it for you right here. But it's very interesting to see what's going on with this. All right, how do I get back? There's back to Trudeau's page. Oh, all right. Okay. So we're gonna, just so you don't think it's just one video here and there, I'm going to pick on another video. Oh, how do I get out of this one? See, I don't go on Facebook very, very often. So I want to see less comments and see, of course, the COVID information here. I don't know if you guys have seen this week, the one where it says, all right, COVID information, post your COVID information below. And it's just an image that says that. And they actually post it right underneath it. It's kind of a troll of that. But okay, let me see if I can figure out here. So news, okay, let me see. I'm trying to get out of this comments so we can check out more videos. Okay, there we go. Okay. This is some other one. Don't really know. This is I don't really know what that's about. It's some Olympic thing. I don't really care. Let's go see it. Okay, so here's another video. Everything we've achieved so far, everything we're fighting for is made possible by volunteers, Canadians who give their time and energy because they believe in what we're trying to do for Canada. So again, the comments in here. Well, I'm happy for your volunteers, as this is the first time in their lives they actually went out and worked. So it's amazing. Here you were, Pebble, the other day. Hope you're doing well. Stay strong. So again, you have once in a while these liberal supporters in here, but the overwhelming comments in here are really bad. They're against Trudeau. So here's another one. Maybe you should think about the men and women who volunteered their life for this country instead. Can't wait for your presence to be completely removed from politics and you're held accountable for your actions. A lot of likes on that one. You can see right here. Although I don't agree with throwing rocks, you agree that no Canadian Prime Minister has ever in history tried so hard to divide the country. So a lot of Canadian, this is very hopeful to read this because you realize how a lot of people really are upset with Trudeau. And it's really uplifting to see, because if you were to only listen to the mainstream media, so the Facebook and the MSM, basically, you only hear that everybody adores Trudeau and that the ones who don't are these extreme far-right, anti-vax, small minority, fringe but violent minority, and that's all you hear about, right? So, and we made Papa Trudeau very mad this week. We made him very mad. Somebody threw pebbles at him, and I don't know what to think anymore, because I have such mistrust for all news out there that I don't even know if that was if somebody really did that, or if the person who did that was hired by Trudeau, because he's getting really desperate. We've been covering how desperate Trudeau's getting in the last 2 or 3 weeks. And I think there is a potential for him to have been hired, for that pebble thrower to be hired to throw that as an example, just to get Trudeau sympathy. Because why else? Like, I don't know that, like, why would you throw pebbles? Like, what could you possibly achieve? That's what I'm trying to imagine. What could possibly be achieved by that? And you guys remember 2 or 3 years ago when Trudeau was out in Quebec speaking about the immigration, and that one Quebec woman, I'll shut off his face for a sec. That one Quebec woman, she was yelling in French, and the secret police went after him. Like, sorry, not the secret police. I'm already thinking we're in the Stasi world. The undercover cops went after this woman, and they arrested a 70-year-old woman, and they brought her to the side, and do you remember she was complaining about her arm, how there were I don't know if you guys remember that. I won't find it if I try to look for it. But there was this woman who was screaming, when are you going to pay us back for all of the immigration you brought in, and you use our tax dollars for it? You know, what about the Quebecers first? What about them? Why are you bringing in immigrants when we have to take care of Quebecers first? That was her whole argument. And immediately the police went after her. They brought her aside, and her husband is filming this whole thing. So why wasn't this Pebble guy arrested? Like, this is what I don't understand. Why, if the government was able to arrest this old lady real fast, how come it is that they couldn't literally block everybody who was there, find the guy and arrest him? And then wouldn't that have been all over the news? Look at this white supremacist. Would have been the poster boy for, you know, the anti-vaxxers. Like, don't they need to find like, this is what I'm thinking. They would have had to have a poster child for the anti-vaxxers at this point, and that would have been their prime opportunity to do it, unless it was somebody that was paid to do that. Paid, or I don't know, paid to throw rocks at Trudeau in an effort to garner sympathy for Trudeau, who's like on a full-on tyrannical binge at this point. So I don't know what you guys I don't know what you guys think about that guy who threw the rocks, and how come he wasn't arrested, and how come he wasn't shown all over our media. I really truly don't get it. I don't know if anybody has other theories about that. But it's very crazy. It's very crazy. I saw that Dan Dix did a video. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but he thinks it's an agent provocateur who did that. there is some merit to that. I don't know much about that world, but I could totally see it be absolutely true. So I just find it really weird that they haven't arrested the guy. So that's where I'm kind of okay. I'm going to go into the genocide the genocide stages now to show you guys. And we're going to tie it back into the last previous streams we've done where I was talking. So I want to remind you of this, of how Trudeau started talking in the last 2 weeks about them and the Canadians. So he'll call Canadians anybody who's been a good boy and has gotten their vaccine because Papa Trudeau said you should get your vaccine. And the others, but he calls them, is anybody who has not gotten vaccinated yet. So keep that in mind as we take a quick look at the stages of genocide. So this is from a website, Genocide Watch, and it was started in the 90s by this guy who did a whole assessment. Now, a lot of genocide is also demicide, which is death by your own government. So genocide is typically like a group that will attack another group within society, but demicide is when the government will directly attack and launch, arrests and mass graves and all that kind of stuff. So like demicide would be what the Nazis did to the Jews, right? The government ordered the roundup of the Jews and the killing them. And genocide is more like what happened in Rwanda, where you have the Tutsis and the Hutus, and they, the shorter ones attack the taller ones. I always get those wrong. I'm sorry, guys. But the shorter ones attack the taller ones. That's how I always know who was genocided. So, and that's what happened. So that was a genocide. Now it was kind of helped out by governments as well, and including foreign governments for Rwanda, but it is more classified as a genocide because it was truly a group within. It wasn't, although that group was egged on by the government, it wasn't the government itself who did it. Like the Nazis, they did it. Another example of democide is the Soviets. They democided their people. The Chinese, they democided their people. So anyways, but I think sometimes genocide is used when the government doesn't want to do the dirty work. And I think that's where Canada's headed. A lot of our, like Australia, same boat, you guys. UK, same thing. I think they're trying to create an environment where genocide would be possible, but the government will say, we didn't do it, right? So it's not going to be democide. I don't think they're bold enough to do democide in our country. So I think genocide is a very, very legit option. Okay, so let's check it out, the 10 stages. The first one, classification. So there's a little bit down here we're going to cover. So this is where exactly what I was telling you, us and them mentality. So Trudeau is blatantly doing that on multiple times a day on his campaign trail. He's doing the us versus them mentality. So he's creating the groundwork for genocide to be possible in Canada. And speech after speech, he just keeps going at it. And that is a terrible, terrible thing to do in a place like Canada, because we haven't gone through genocide in Canada before. We've only read it in the news from other countries, but we are not ready for identifying what this is. So we could think, oh, it's just the unvaxxed. They're just not getting vaxxed. Time for them to get vaxxed. But the true danger in the speeches that are happening right now is the us and the them. Now, Hitler did the same thing in his speeches. He did the Jews, right? Us, the good Germans, and then the Jews, the homosexuals, and the gypsies, right? He put all of them, like the unpure classes of society, bundled them all up together, and that was the them. But the us was the German pure race. So in our country, we're starting to see that exact same narrative that's been happening before, as them, the unvaccinated, and us, the good vaccinated. And the classification is really the actual starting point, because until you have a classification, there's no divide. So you need the classification to create that divide between segments of society, and then you can go after them. And that's what brings us to the other stages of genocide. So the second one is the symbolization. So this one, look for that in the next few days. I think it's already starting to happen, but it's where symbols start to be used. So right now, the masks are being used everywhere, so it's not a symbol yet. But if they, for example, decide that the mask will be used by the unvaxxed, the mask is then a de facto symbol that used as part of the classification to identify. So other symbols, obviously, the very famous one of the star and the armband on the Jews. And there's a whole bunch of other ones. Like you can look at a whole bunch of history of genocide and find that in every single one, there was some kind of symbol in there. So I know that the Khmer Rouge did it again in Cambodia. The blue scarf, they had a blue scarf. So there is, and we talked about the Cambodia situation a few streams ago. So this is how it also starts. So once you've classified, you've started to allocate symbols. Now, our symbols, I think, are going to be a little bit high tech. We're going to have more of a digital signature, a digital symbol. It's going to be on our phones. So, but they will find a way for it to be for when you go out in society to know. So right now, you can still go downtown, for example. You can't enter a restaurant if you're in Ontario, at least, and in Quebec. But you cannot enter a restaurant unless you have your double vax. So unless you try to go into that restaurant, it's not going to be super obvious yet. So we're still in that, right? That distinguishing phase where we're trying to figure out, what the symbols are going to be used on the people who have not been vaccinated to be identified very clearly. And the digital pass will not be sufficient because it won't be a visual cue, right? You have to have visual. It has to be in your face. That every genocide has had the visual. The Hutu and the Tutsis. Remember, I was telling you the tall guys. The tall guys. That's what they were called. The tall trees. Like that was the tall guys were the ones that were victimized in the situation because they were tall. It wasn't just because of that, but that clan, whoever they were, happened to be taller. And I'm so sorry. I always get them wrong. I'll never know this, guys. For the rest of my life, I always have to Google it, which ones were the genocided one. So remember back, if some of you were here when we did the whole Nazi series, there was they started the Jews with the star that they had to sew onto their jackets and they could not remove it. And there was very severe penalties if you were found to have been trying to hide the star. And remember when we got to the 1942-43 year, and our guy Victor was working in a factory, right? He was in a cigar factory and then in a paper factory for a while. And he was saying that when the SS and the Gestapo guards would come into the factory to do their checks, if the Jew was turned away from the Gestapo, they couldn't tell it was a Jew because there was other people working in the factory too. So that's where they started to make them wear an armband in a factory so that a Gestapo officer, an SS officer could go and stand right in front of the whole room and see based on armbands. So the star was no longer enough. So that's why you started seeing armbands. So this is where I think they're going to start doing a little bit more symbolism in our case as well. So probably the mask, but they could very, very well make us wear some kind of a bracelet. I've heard rumors of an ankle bracelet. So hopefully they don't tattoo us. But anyways, this is the opportunity to kind of try to pull back on this madness. If we can understand, as soon as the symbol is starting to come in, we're getting deeper into the genocide stage. So we already know we have the symbols in Canada. They're coming, and it's going to start to escalate from there. Discrimination, the third one. So this is where we are full-fledged discrimination in Canada. You have the same thing in Australia, and I'm so sorry because you guys are so way ahead of this. You're closer to the end than we are. But this discrimination is already happening in Canada. They've actually made it a state policy to discriminate. So now if you are unvaxxed, you cannot go on trains, planes. I hate that saying those words together because now I sound like fucking Trudeau, but it's what it is. You can't use those. So your only mode of transportation left is car. If you want to cross over into different provinces, you have to take your car. also soon coming to an end, guys, because they're going to put climate change and policies onto you. So that's going to be restricted. So, but that's what they're doing. You're discriminated against now if you want to go. You have less rules in society. You have less privileges in society. And so far, it's only just privileges, right? Eating at a restaurant. Can you go your life without eating at a restaurant? Technically, yes. Can you go your life without going to a movie theater? Yes. Technically, you could do it. It's not fun, but whatever. But the discrimination could easily accelerate and become worse and worse. So this discrimination could be full-blown. You don't get vaxxed, you get fired from your work. That's a very real potential. Also, oh, you're married to an unvaxxed, we no longer recognize your marriage, right? And we need you to move out. We're going to give you a state-funded home for the vaxxed, and then or kick your unvaxxed partner out. We're going to put the unvaxxed partner in a camp, and you have that home to yourself now. It's very real possibility that that could happen. And if you are unvaxxed, that they would take your kids away from you and they would have obviously vaxxed them. But this is the discrimination, and we're already there. That phase is already check mark in Canada, like the checklist is we're going there. We're going to the genocide stage, guys. So this is a very famous Nuremberg laws in Germany. We covered that in detail in the Nazi series, so I'm not going to cover that today. But another example that comes to mind of discrimination is the Jim Crow laws in the States. This is exactly what they did. So you remember they have the very classic black and white pictures of here's the fountain where the blacks can drink out of, and here are the fountains where the whites can drink out of. Blacks go at the back of the bus and whites go at the front. So the Jim Crow laws that the far left seems to decry all the time and accuse everybody of racism, isn't it ironic that we're allowing those laws to literally be instated in Canada? And some people are okay with it, not all. And from what I can see, the anger directed at Justin Trudeau, a lot of people are really angry. So I'm hoping that a lot of us are angry enough that we can actually reverse this. We need to 180 this thing right out of Canada, because if we keep going down the stages, and you'll see, it's not good for us. It's not good for our country as a whole. So yeah, the Jim Crow laws was exactly the same thing that happened, and we're there. So, and it's done by politicians are fully endorsing this. They're fully endorsing this. And they're incentivizing it and everything. Okay, the next stage is dehumanization. Now, dehumanization is going to be the easiest phase, in my opinion, in our path to genocide, because we already have the underlying cause of disease. So oftentimes you have to create it or give the perception, the illusion that the human is diseased. In this case, they can actually argue you are diseased. You are a vehicle of disease because you are unvaxxed. So this is where the dehumanization will take place within that work frame arguments. That doesn't make sense. You know what I'm trying to say. Within those arguments, the dehumanization is going to take place, and it's going to be used to complete vilification of the other group. The Nazis did that whole museum where they did the art about the Jews, and they would paint the Jews as like having really big nose, being gross, taking all your money, comparing them to rats and vermin. So that was like the Nazi way of dealing with the dehumanization. The Canadian way will be the actual medical way. So they're going to use the guise of medicine to claim that the unvaxxed are vehicles of disease. And an example of that is when you keep hearing the very famous sentence now, this is the wave of the unvaxxed. It's the pandemic of the unvaxxed. That is the dehumanization. It's important to understand what they're doing. That is a dehumanization strategy. The pandemic of the unvaxxed is the vilification of a group, attacking them for being, causing all the problems in society. Okay, I'm just gonna keep up with the comments so I can see what you guys are talking about. I thought as somebody talked to me about the Europa document, I still have to watch it. It's still not like, it's not gonna make me hate Jews. And I have no doubt in my mind that there are some Jewish powerful people who are screwing us all over. And trust me, as much as I was a fan of Israel before, I am definitely not now, because what you guys are doing to your people in Israel is atrocious. You are the first to do the vax pass. The way you're treating your citizens, absolutely disgusting. And I do not like what is going on in Israel right now. Does that mean I'm anti-Jewish? Hell no. I've already been down this so many times in my videos. I am not ever going to be anti-Semitic, ever. It's just not going to happen. And now, no, I'm not a Jew. A lot of people have asked me, are you Jewish? No, I'm not a Jew. I'm just not anti-Semitic. I don't believe in attacking an entire group of people for their religion. So, okay. I was at just a little side note today. I went to see a natural doctor, like a naturopath, and this was probably one of the highlights of my year, no joke, because this doctor was so incredibly amazing and very much realistic about what's going on, very much the same mentality, the same way of thinking. And it was so nice to walk in somewhere and not be forced to be masked up, and to have never be told you're going to have to take the vax to see me. It was just such a nice interaction. And I think there's going to be a lot more places like that. So guys, there are a lot of places like that out there. Look for them if you can. If you want to support the businesses that are not going along with this tyranny, look for them. And I told you last week that in Ontario, we have a group, a Facebook group that's called the Ontario. That's the only reason I'm going on Facebook now. But it's the Ontario. Let me see if I can find it here. I don't even use Facebook. Oh, here, home. I'm sure I'm gonna have one here. Hold on, let me see if I can find it real quick, guys. But it's the sorry, everything is so slow. It's Ontario. Yeah, I'm gonna show it to you. I have it right here. Okay, this one here, Ontario Businesses Against Health Pass. So see, there are 120K members. Last week when we talked about this group, they were at, I think, 70. It's amazing how fast they're growing. So anyways, and people are posting here all of their preferred, like their businesses, and it gives you an option to go and start finding people who are fighting for freedom. So these are the heroes, the new heroes. The first heroes was the nurses and the frontline workers. These are the new heroes. These are your freedom fighters working for you and putting themselves and their careers in jeopardy and against the government in order to support freedom. So new class of heroes right here in Canada. Okay, so back to the stages of genocide. Okay, so the organization. I'm not sure how deep we are into this one yet, but I think it is being worked on without us knowing. So this is where the group, the dominant group, in our case, it would be the vax group, is starting to get together and figure out ways to intimidate. So we could see, intimidation in the streets for non-vax. So this is after you've been classified and you've been symbolized. Now they have the way to pinpoint you in society. And this is where the organization part will come in and say, okay, we can harass them in the streets. All, of course, this is going to be state-sponsored by Canada. Trudeau's going to love people who do that. But it's going to allow them to harass. It'll start small. It'll be harassment, nudging. Maybe you'll have a team of, vaccination officials showing up at your door and gently asking you to please get vaccinated. This is the organizational part of it. And it starts off very, very small. Oh, we're building camps. But it's just a camp so that you can come and isolate yourself if you live in an apartment building. That's an example of organization. They're laying down the actual work, the places to put people, the ways to interfere with them. This is what the organization is. So when you hear, and it was announced in Ontario that they are doing a whole bunch of COVID camps, they are building them. This is not a conspiracy theory. This was announced by the government. They are doing this. And that is part of the organization. So the organization, it goes all the way from just knocking on your door and simply asking you, are you vaxxed or not, all the way up to taking you from your home and putting you in a COVID camp. And you stay there until you either get vaxxed or you can get to work there for the rest of your life. You work for the government at the COVID camp. So very, very real possibility of that happening now that the organization is starting to take place. There's probably a lot more secret organization that we're not seeing, not privy to yet, but it's coming. Remember we had talked when we did the Nuremberg trials, we talked about the Einsatzgruppen. So that was the Nazis who were responsible for going to various villages in Europe and rounding up the Jews and taking them out to the forest and shooting them. They were also in one of the Nuremberg trials. There were one of the 13 trials was specifically dedicated to them. So that was an example of organization within a genocidal environment. Of course, we know they were democided, but this is the same kind of, the democide and the genocide have very similar steps. So this, unfortunately, right now in Canada they say here to combat this, it needs to be outlaw, but the government is actually right now enforcing it. So they're enforcing, they're allowing all of this to happen. They're endorsing it. They're giving money towards it. I don't know how we can reverse this one, but it's going to be a question of, you cannot allow them to take you to the COVID camp under no circumstance, because we know what happens when they take you somewhere. Whether you're in USSR, the Soviets did it, they took people from their homes. You never end up in a good place when you're taken from your home. So as long as we understand that, we can see, okay, it's not just a COVID camp. It's a concentration camp, essentially. Okay, polarization. So this is driving the groups apart. This is where they start to really zone in on the people that, in our case, it would be the non-vaxxed people. But this is where they start arresting people. They'll go after like the more famous of the non-vaxxed people first, and make sure that they show everybody that they've arrested this person for being unvaxxed and non-compliance. So this is where they're going. Any opposition often gets thrown in there. So this is where they use the opportunity to take anybody they just don't like and just kind of throw them in there and decide, oh no, we took him because he didn't comply. That's what they do. They don't say what he didn't comply to, but they'll just start going after opposition. So this is where they start to work away at minimizing these dangerous group in favor of the compliant group. Okay, preparation. So this is where the secret meetings happen behind closed doors of government halls, where they start talking about how they actually deal with this. How are they going to deal with this? Preparation is probably already started as well, because although they're building the nice COVID camps, the cozy, a big bear hug COVID camp where you're going to be swaddled every night and you're going to be given sushi for dinner, right? Like the COVID camp where you go to willingly isolate because you're such a good person. Those camps were also part of the preparation. And I think they're going to have some meetings onto how do we use those camps to now punish the unvaxxed. So that would be under the preparation. Preparation in our scenario could also be where they're going to start saying, okay, if you're unvaxxed, you can no longer go to the hospital in your city. We're going to designate one hospital in Toronto, and that's going to be the hospital for the unvaxxed, and everybody else can go wherever they want. But if you're unvaxxed, you get one option. So this is the kind of thing where they start to think about, how do we clearly make sure that we have this division, then the non-compliant people fully punished at every step of the way. Okay, persecution. Well, this is a bit more obvious. This is where you get beat up in the street by thugs. This is where you get bullied wherever you go. And I did a video a few months ago now, at the start of the year, actually, where I said the vaccine mob's coming for you. And I said in that video, eventually it could get so violent that they could just literally just burn down your house simply for being unvaxxed. They imagine if they did like the Nazis did, and they start putting unvaxxed signs on your windows. And then that is a trigger for people to go and just attack your home, destroy your car, and then you're screwed. You can't go anywhere. You have no more home. And the government will already have in place at that point that you can only get, how do you call it, employment insurance or whatever it is, like social assistance if you're vaccinated. So at that point, you would be truly screwed as an unvaxxed person. But this is where the organized crime portion of it, the bosses come out and they actually, will do the violence will escalate. This is where they say the children are forcibly taken from their parents. So this is very, very possible that it would happen in Canada. And also at the persecution stage, you'll see a small handful of people being killed on the spot, but it's not yet at that level where you're like rounding up people. So you could hear about a family in rural Ontario that were unvaccinated, living on their farm, and they were all killed by a mob that went up there. So this is an example of that. They talk here about forced sterilization or abortions. This is a very, very real possibility that they would say, okay, you don't want to get vaxxed, well, then you're not allowed to have kids. So if you're already pregnant, they would abort your baby forcefully. And unless you take the jab, and if you completely refuse, if they put you in a re-education camp, Stalin style, and you keep saying, you know what, I just don't want this, I'm going to stand my ground, they'll say, okay, well, we will forcibly sterilize you now because you have been deemed as improper to bear children in Canada. So this is where this kind of things would happen. And unfortunately for us, nobody's going to save us. This is what we have to save ourselves. There's going to be no US coming to help us. They're going to be fighting their own battles. And we are the richest, one of the most powerful countries in the world. So it's not like Zimbabwe is going to come and help, right? Like, sorry to say this, guys, but we're truly on our own on this one. Zimbabwe, Italy, they're not going to send troops over to Canada to help us. We're kind of on our own because nobody else is a superpower. And China loves this. So China, who's trying to emerge as a superpower right now, they're not going to come and help us. They're going to actually be helping the other side. They're going to be helping the genocide. So they're going to have troops here, probably already have troops here that are going to be starting to participate in this. So the UN troops, I don't know if I don't think there's going to be any helping us. And it says right here, the perpetrators know that the UN, the regional organizations, nations with powerful militaries will again be bystanders and permit another genocide. So very, very true. We're on our own. So this is why if we go back up to the first 3 or 4 phases that we're in Canada, it's incredibly important that we push back now and we refuse to allow this to take place in our country. We cannot, even just the classification vax, non-vax, has to be stopped dead in its tracks right now. Trudeau should be jailed for incitement to violence at this point because every single one of his speech is inciting violence towards the non-vaxxed. He's not outright saying it, but he's saying them, as in the gross, disgusting, stupid, illogical, unvaxxed people who refuse to just get the vax. If they just got the vax, everything would be so much easier. But those evil, awful people absolutely refuse to do it. Can you imagine being somebody who's vaxxed who hears that, or just being somebody who's easily influenceable who hears that, and you turn around and you go, oh yeah, those stupid unvaxxed. Next time you see an unvaxxed person in the street, you just kick them because now you've been incited by Trudeau. You've been given permission by the head of our country to openly discriminate against a group of people. It's like people go, how did this happen in Germany? How did the Germans stand around and watch this genocide happen in their own country? Well, this is it. This is what happened. This is how it started in Germany too. Same thing in the USSR. This is how Stalin did it too. He did it to the kulaks. We've covered those guys too. He dehumanized them, made them look like evil, greedy, capitalistic pigs who were just out to get the common good of the communists, right? They didn't want to be communists. They wanted to be capitalistic, and that had to be done with because they were just disgusting people. Stalin did it. Hitler did it. The The smaller tribe did it to the larger tribe, the taller tribe in Rwanda. The Khmer Rouge did it. They all did it. They all did it. Vietnam, so many countries have a history of genocide. It's just absolutely appalling when you group them all together and you look at it in one screen of how many countries have had genocide. And it goes back in history too. There's way, way back in history where you can find multiple examples of genocide. The fight between the Protestants and Catholics. In France, you had that, and there's just bloody in the streets. There's just absolutely awful. There was a 30-year war. You can go back, and you can go back to ancient Greece and find this. Look at what King Herod, what's Herod in English? I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Who butchered all of the baby boys when Jesus was born, right? This is another example of it can go very, very fast. And it's just absolutely scary to think about. That was the genocide of an entire generation of baby boys because King Herod wanted to make sure that no other king was coming up. So genocide and democide has happened over and over and over in history. And I'm just in a state of complete, I'm so appalled that this is now in Canada, the country that I grew up in, that I thought we would never. I thought if there's one place on earth we won't see this kind of genocide maniacs show up, it'll be here. But no, it's actually showing up here, and it's just so distressing to realize. So this is why we have to do everything we can to stop it now, because there is nobody coming to help us. There is nobody. We are on our own, and this is our fight, and we need to stand here and fight this off. So fight the declassification, fight the symbols, refuse to wear the mask. That's all we need to do. Refuse to participate in any discrimination. And if we see the discrimination, we need to fight to prevent that from happening. Fight the dehumanization. Make sure no militias can get organized. And if we see that, and hopefully we can build an equally on the opposite side of that, another militia that can go and fight them, right? Like, we need to fight this, guys. Okay, sorry, we have two more stages of the genocide. Here it is: extermination. The ultimate end goal of any genocide process is to, under legal banner, get rid of an entire group of people. And this is very much where I am concerned this is going. So disgusting things happen when you're at this stage. It's just absolutely appalling. You can take all the horror movies ever made in the history of cinema, put them all together, and you will find more disturbing things done in real life. Like, movies can't even replicate the level of evil and terrible things that can be done by humans to other humans. What was it? The Rape of Nanking, is that the right one? Somebody will correct me in the chat here, but where was it the Japanese soldiers that went and raped the women in China? So anyways, it's absolutely disgusting what can happen when you're in the extermination phase. So sorry, I just heard noise back there, and I'm remember that stream I did a few weeks ago where there was a peeping Tom in my front window. I'm a little bit nervous now. I don't know what's going on back there. Okay. So anyways, okay. The extermination is just one part of it. You have things like rape. So here, all women and girls may be raped, mass rapes of women. The Soviets did that to the German women after they freed Germany. The Soviets did disgusting things to Germans after the war. So 1944, 1945 at liberation. So the mass rapes is always there alongside with genocide. And it's, you kill all the men and you go and you rape the women, and you then rape the little girls and kill the babies. It's just absolutely disgusting. So this is one of the last stages of the genocide, and it's just I'm having so much difficulty talking about it because it's just so appalling that humans can do that in general, that I just don't even know how to find the right words to say it. And I'm trying not to become super emotional. But yeah, so it was the Rape of Nanking, right? I think it was Yeah, it was Japan and China. And I think it was also in the 30s, if I'm not mistaken. I'm starting to have so many things in my head that sometimes I lose track a little bit and I have to look it up. So don't quote me on that, guys. But okay, the last stage I'm going to talk about very quickly is the denial. So the denial, one of the best examples of denials that I've ever seen is in the Nuremberg trials. So that is the full-fledged denial on display, where they actually believe, geez, I keep hearing stuff. They actually believe they've done nothing wrong. I'm going to go check it out. It's so nerve-wracking. I don't know why. I just keep hearing some stuff out there. I'm like, maybe it's a raccoon, but I hear kids' voices. Anyways, sorry guys. It's hard to keep a live stream when you hear stuff around. But the Nuremberg trials was the biggest blatant example of denial of a genocide that we can ever find, because it's exhaustively documented. So remember the Einsatzgruppen, the Einsatzgroup that we were talking about, the guys who went and found the Jewish villages and shot them up in the forest? Those guys they were the reason why the excuse of I was just following orders does not work anymore. So that legally, from an international law perspective, we have recognized that once there's a genocide that has happened, the people who participated in it can no longer say things like I was just following orders. So that was the trial that has determined that this is no longer a legal validation of your actions. You're still held responsible for your actions if you did participate in human rights violation, even if you're following orders. So this should be a very, very big warning to people who are now participating in all of this in Canada and in Australia. People who are there going, oh, you know what? It's all good because I'm just following orders. I'm just doing my job. The bylaw officers, the cops, the militias that are going to come to my door, if they say I'm all following orders, maybe I won't make it out of this alive and I'm going to end up dying or shot in a forest somewhere. But in the future, when they try to go on trial for whatever next international trial is going to happen, they won't have that legal defense to stand on. So, okay, the denial of committing any crimes, this saying, oh, it wasn't me, it was somebody else. I was just the train driver. So that was another example that was used. I was just driving the train. I didn't know that the 6,000 Jews in the back were going to get murdered. I was just driving the train. So those are the kinds of denials that people will say. And I think this is once we find out more about what people who took the injection are going to go through, the nurses who injected all these people, this is what they're going to say. So you don't have to the denial is not just applicable to genocide. It's also like after you inflicted harm on people, the nurses and the medical practitioners will display full-blown denial. They'll say, I was told to do it. At the time, I thought I was doing the best I could. We really thought it was good for humanity. That's going to all be part of the denial that will take place after the fact. And they're going to go after like more of the big head honchos, like the Trudeaus, the Faucis. They're going to go after those guys more and try to go for the big fish if there is some kind of a trial. And I think there will definitely be a trial for what has been going on now, the destruction of the economy, the vilification of an entire group of people for simply not wanting to inject themselves with something. It's a trial is going to come, and the denial we'll see. They're going to go after the big fish. They're going to try to get Trudeau and the big ones. But just like we saw in Operation Paperclip, if you remember that one, Operation Paperclip is after the war. The US was so afraid of the top scientists in Germany going on the USSR side that they decided it's better that we take them in the USA and use what they've learned, use their scientific knowledge, than let them fall into the hands of the Soviets, who will also use their knowledge against us. So Operation Paperclip, they took top-ranking Nazi scientists. They gave them new identities in the West, here in the USA. and they allowed them to continue with their scientific careers with no problem whatsoever, despite the fact that these were full-fledged war criminals. So people, and I just watched Trudeau walk away with this. It's going to be infuriating. He'll walk away with no issues, no crimes against him, nothing. He'll walk away like he's been walking away from all of his ethics violations. So anyway, so those are the stages of denial, of genocide. We saw them all here. If we look on this site, Genocide Watch, there is another one that talks about, let me just find it again. It does talk more about the denial process, the cost of denial. Here it is. The cost of denial. And this, so you guys can, I would encourage if you wanted to go and read this, but this is where they talk about the entire cost of denial. And there's another section here that says 12 ways to deny genocide. And this is what, so the nurses, they're going to be part of this. So they minimize the statistics, right? So Stalin is very famous for that when he was denying that he was doing any kind of democide in the USSR. He would minimize the statistics all the time. Attacking the motivation of the truth tellers. So this is where they say, oh, you're just saying that because you're an anti-vaxxer. That's an example of that. Claims that the death were inadvertent. Again, another Stalin thing. I think a lot of this is based on Stalin. But Stalin, after the Ukrainian famine that he caused, by the way, he caused the Ukrainian famine. And I think 6 million people, 6 million Ukrainians died in the Holodomor. And he said, oh, it was just famine. It was just famine. Like, but you caused it. Oh, but they were just hungry. So it's yeah. The strange, emphasize the strangeness of the victims is another way to do it. So again, the anti-vaxxers are so weird. They're so like belligerent. They just want to cause trouble in society. Rational the death. That's another, rationalize, sorry, the deaths. Blame out of control forces for committing the killings. So this is where you'll step away and you'll say, oh, it wasn't us. It was like this group of crazy, violent Antifa people who did it, right? It wasn't us. It was Antifa. This is an example of the out of control forces that they're going to, and they can create an out of control force. So avoid antagonizing the genocidists. Right. So this is where you start talking about peace process. After the Second World War, there was a lot of these peace process, the rebuilding of Europe, all of that, even though a lot of European countries had committed atrocities against their own people. So they basically worked with the war criminals for a while to rebuild Europe. Justified denial in favor of current economic interests is basically just switching gears, talking about something else, talking about the economy instead. Claim that the victims are receiving good treatment. This is going to be what they're going to say about the COVID camps in Ontario. They're going to say, oh, we treat people really well there. We give them sushi for dinner. They can watch movies after dinner. It's fun, you know. And then really what's happening is you're being bullied and tortured daily for not taking the vaccine. Claim that what is going on doesn't fit the definition of genocide. So again, this is just like they said initially, it doesn't fit the definition of a pandemic. And all of a sudden it became a pandemic. And now it doesn't fit the definition of the new definition of the pandemic that they newly created, but they're still calling it a pandemic. So they reword things. They put the emphasis on different kinds of words, or they relabel the word with a different definition. This is straight out of the LGBT playbook. They're one part of the communist branches, and LGBT is one of them. And they actually are very known to reword things to make them different than what you are talking about and what they're talking about. So blame the victims, of course. There's still people blaming the Jews today for what happened to them in the Holocaust. So blame the victims. Well, yeah, the Jews, they were pigs, whatever. We had to kill them. This is another very, very, this one persists to this day. And say that peace and reconciliation is more important than blaming the people for the genocide. This one just ties back in. This is the same, in my opinion, as avoid antagonizing the genocidist as a peace process. So this is the ways, and of course, the people who participated at a lower level into this us versus them idea are going to be in the full-fledged denial. They're going to say I didn't give any shots to anybody. I never gave the COVID shot to patients. Or it's going to be, well, I gave it, but I thought I was doing the right thing. They're going to justify this in their own mind because it's going to be so hard to come to realize what has happened, what they've done. So at least in some of the nurses, they genuinely think they're doing the right thing. So I guess it could be a different story for them. But anyways, so yeah, there you guys have it. The 10 stages of genocide. Do you guys think we're in there in Canada now? I definitely think so. We're at in between stages 1 and 5, all mixed in together, all happening simultaneously. So we'll see. But hopefully we can fight this a little bit. I really need us to fight. We need to fight, guys. We can do this. And it's not going to be, it's not hard to fight now. It's better to fight now than it will be later. And it's going to be really important to get as many people on our side as possible from the unvaxxed side. And there are a lot of them. A lot of the unvaxxed don't want their freedoms removed like what we're seeing now. So I think we can win them over. And the unvaxxed, once they realize that truly to keep their passport alive or valid, I should say, in Ontario, they're going to do this everywhere, but in Ontario, they're going to say, well, unless you get your booster shot, we can't renew your passport. So then those people who all of a sudden don't want the 6th booster shot are going to be locked out of restaurants. So it won't affect them now, but it could very well affect the jabbed people in the future when they start going down the path that we know they're headed for. And this is all stuff that's in the mainstream media. It's not like, this is why YouTube seems to be allowing me to talk about it, because I only talk about what's in the mainstream media right now. So it's what's happening. The jabs are coming. The vaccine passports are already here. Sorry, the booster shots, I meant. It's all coming. So anyways, oh, Philip, I see you're here. Hey, Phil. And Greg, Kayups, Patrick, you guys, thank you so much for joining. Pierrette, oh, Pierrette, I hope you're doing well. Just trying to say hi to everybody. I want to see if those 2 people from last week have joined us again so I can properly greet them. Bobcat, you're here as well. A lot of people I recognize. I recognize you guys. You guys have been, so many of you have been with me on my channel for so long, eh? It's amazing. So, but yeah, Biker Bob, I haven't seen you before. Have I seen you before? Maybe I haven't, but welcome. Hello. Yeah, so I don't know. Keep listening to Trudeau. There's going to be a lot of the genocide stages that are going to be coming. And you guys will see. So anyways, on this note, I will let you go. And oh, Phil Brown. Phil, hello. You know, mwah, Phil Brown, that's just for you. Don't be jealous, everybody else. So I will leave you guys on this one. I'll keep checking out what Trudeau is saying. I can't promise you that next week I'm not going to show you another Trudeau speech, because it's absolutely insane what he's saying. It's insane. He's reached level 100 tyrannical insanity at this point. So it's almost fun to watch him unraveling so fast, because so many people are aware of what he's doing now. So anyways, we will, maybe I'll show you a couple more videos and speeches that he's done next week. Hopefully nobody's going to go and throw rocks at him again, because honestly, that's not the way to go. Like, it just gives him ammunition to use against unvaxxed, and he's already creating a huge divide. So, you know, don't make Papa Trudeau upset again, guys, this week, okay? Let's try to not do that. But anyways, okay, I will see you guys next week. Have a really good week, everybody. And yeah, stay positive. We can beat this, and we will. All right, cheers, guys.